Before I drove a mom wagon, I got pulled over for speeding quite a bit, and it never got me out of tickets.
Because
So
you were driving a red Italian sports car
so fast. I
so
was driving it
fast.
so fast. We are the Arms Attorneys. Welcome back for another mailbag episode. We're actually filming this hot on the heels of our last mailbag episode that we filmed. The new one hasn't even come out yet because we had so many questions from that previous episode that we're rolling through two mailbags at once. So
Two mailbags.
stick around. We're going to talk about when states can override your civil rights through the courts. We're going to talk about where the armed attorney blooper reel went. And we're going to talk about when you have a duty to ID when you're carrying. But before we get started, show your support for the Second Amendment by hitting the like button. And Edwin Walker, your second mailbag in a row. Welcome back.
Second mailbag.
You
Glad to be
old
here.
mailbag.
What they call me. That's what they used to call me in school. The old mailbag.
Whole mailbag. All right. So Richard's not here to keep me organized. So we are going to once again read them off my cellular phone. We have at Russ Photo. Is it possible for a state to override all civil rights? What other part of the Constitution can be regulated by the courts, even though these are our God-given rights? Well, Edwin, first let's talk about why the courts get to talk about your God-given rights at all.
Well, I believe the difficulty in his question is the word all. So as lawyers, we're trained not to use words like all or every because
So we use words like generally.
Correct, because the law is riddled with exceptions. So you can take your most basic fundamental right, say your right to free speech. And we all know that, the anti-gun folks, they like to say no right is, no right
is absolute.
Is absolute, which, that has been the way the jurisprudence has developed. So there are several examples of speech that is regulated one way or another, like defamatory speech. You cannot say things that are defamatory. You will be found liable if you say things that are defamatory, which one of the big exceptions to that is that truth is an absolute defense. Okay, so you can say whatever you want. You can say the most horrible thing about somebody if it is true and is not defamatory. And statements of opinion are not defamatory.
In my opinion, and then just go for it.
And then just say whatever you want.
Yeah.
So you can say something like, in my opinion, that man is dishonest. But you cannot say, that man stole $150 from the cash register from the store he was working at.
Sure enough. So why do the courts, and I think this is a question generally directed at the Second Amendment being a disfavored right. And so are there, why does it get to be addressed in any capacity for any right? And the answer is that the courts get to address it because the government's always going to try to infringe on it. Anything that belongs to you, the government wants to take away. And so, whether that be your right to free speech, your right to liberty, right? There's going to be something the government says, aha, we don't want you to do that. And then when they try to take it away from you, who mediates that conflict?
The court does. And that's why a court cannot come out and make an absolute proclamation about a right, because the only time a court gets to address any particular infringement of any particular right is whenever some government has tried to infringe on it. So It's a lot like pushing a rope.
They need a case or controversy.
So the court is not allowed to just push the entire rope at one time. They have to push back against certain pieces of the rope that are pushed against by the government. Now, there have been several Supreme Court justices that have said that they don't like to see the Second Amendment treated as a second-class right. And, that's language that we really haven't heard in the past. And so that is, in my opinion, a step forward.
It is a step forward. But, the general answer is, they get to nitpick every single thing we've got and tell us where our rights end and begin, because our rights touch upon the rights of others, they say. So, I have the right to needle Edwin until I actually touch him, right? And then it's assault by contact.
Yes, the old libertarian phrase that the right to swing my fist ends at the end of your nose.
Exactly right. So, next question. All right, we have at Screwball Crawford with California. outright banning suppressors. What happens to the ban when the Hearing Protection Act passes federally, which it looks more and more likely every day. I mean, this episode will air actually quite a ways out from filming, so
Okay.
I would hate for, by the time this airs, there be just some movement here that we didn't know about, but just give us some grace. We're, lawyers, and Richard's out of town, and we're just going with our schedules here. So, what happens, Edwin? What happens to poor Californians if the Hearing Protection Act passes in the budget bill?
Well, they'll still be prohibited in California.
Yeah.
Because there's no federal preemption language in it that says that no state can regulate the possession of suppressors or silencers. It just simply states that the federal government is withdrawing its regulation of suppressors and silencers.
Right. So if you happen to live in one of those unfortunate states, you're just cooked. Come, as long as you don't bring your politics with you, the liberal politics, come to Texas.
Now,
take you.
If the federal government chose to, they could, like they do in so many other areas, they could threaten to withhold funds from states that criminalize the possession of suppressors.
Sure.
But I think that day, while it may come at some point, certainly is not today.
No, although you'd hope. That's the stick. That's the.
Well, one of the things, and just not to digress, but me being as old as I am, one of the things that early stuck in my craw was whenever the federal government came to each state and they said, you're going to lower your level of driving while intoxicated, or we're withholding all of your highway funds. I felt that to be coercive. I felt that to be against state rights.
Became 0.08?
Yes. Well, first 0.10, then once again lowered to 0.08. And so, yes, in fact, the last state to hold out was Louisiana.
I didn't know that, actually.
Yes, they were like, I don't think you will control what level of alcohol we can have in Louisiana.
I don't know what kind of livers they have there, because, I'll tell you.
They're extraordinary Cajun livers.
They are extraordinary Cajun livers. I've never been pulled over for DWI. I'd say that now. I don't even drive at night anymore, so I don't know when that would, and I'm always pregnant, so I don't know when it would even happen anymore at this point in my life. But the one time I have been breathalyzed is at baby prosecutor school. And I was walking back into our hotel after a night of drinking, as one does with baby prosecutors, because the law is for thee and not for me, right? So I was offered, as I walked back into the hotel, from prosecutors walking out of the hotel to continue drinking, a portable breath test, like the actual ones they keep on the side of the road with police officers. And they said, if you are under a 0.08, you have to come back out. And I was, despite how drunk I felt. So, yes. I'm not saying that 0.08 is the right level. I'm just saying, man, if I was at a 0.1, I would probably not even remember.
Yes. And the most important part of that law was that the states were required to raise their drinking age.
Yes.
So they had to raise it from 18 to 21. And Louisiana, once again, last state to do that. No, they want you to be able to open carry your beverage, 18 years old, 19 years old. And I remember that specifically because coincidentally, that just happened to be the time period where I went from being 18, and I will remember this distinctly, that I was 18, legal to drink for 1 month before the law jumped it all the way to 21.
Sorry, Edwin.
So that's really the only way the federal government can coerce a state action is through the power of the purse.
Sure enough. All right, back to questions. Okay, we have, this one is just me picking on Richard.
Sure.
At Fallen Embers 33, question, when will the bloopers at the end come back? I love the bloopers at the end of the episodes. I love them. For those of you who, maybe are sort of newer watchers, we used to put in like maybe 5 seconds, 7 seconds of blooper at the end of the episode because we screw around a lot getting these filmed. Too much
for Richard.
And Richard was he said it messes with the algorithm. He doesn't like it. Samir, put a blooper in at the end of this episode, please.
Yes, and can you Can you put that traditional blooper music behind it?
So, yes, I love the bloopers too. If you want more bloopers, comment here, make it inescapable so that Richard has to let us have them back. All right, so we have our next question at PCYR9999. This is Texas specific to LTCs, but it's a good one. Does having your LTC in Texas, which has a toothless duty to inform/identify LTC statute, mean you've waived your right to refuse to identify, absent situations that generally require identification anyway? I love this question.
Now, we have a bit of a disagreement
We do.
on this. Yes,
Yes.
because I say it does not.
Okay, so let's background it. Let's background it out. So,
Sure.
yes, so let's give this
Are we
hypothetical.
rewinding the clock all the way to 2005?
No.
All right.
I'm just back to a hypothetical in which I am not the driver of a vehicle. I am a passenger. And I have on my person my handgun and my LTC. And an officer asked me to ID as the passenger versus a scenario in which I am that passenger, but I do not have my gun. My duties, my legal duties are different. So I believe that the answer is yes, I have waived my right to refuse to identify if I have my gun on me because the statute does still exist. Whereas generally speaking, as a passenger, I could say, pound sand, I'm not telling you nothing. If I've got my gun and I've got my LTC, I have got to present it. But Edwin's argument is this.
I disagree.
Hear him out.
So in 2011, the statute was amended. So keep in mind, for those of you who are, I know that we've lost the non-Texas residents.
We've lost
They're
everything,
checking out
yeah.
at this point. But Texas has a law in its licensing statute that says when requested by a police officer and you're carrying, you have a duty to present your license. Now, this duty prior to 2011 said that if you do not do this, your license will be maybe suspended for 6 months. And if your license has already been suspended for this, you can be charged with a Class B misdemeanor. Well, in 2011, the legislature cut this penalty out. They left the requirement. So technically, you could say, I have a contractual obligation to do this. But they removed the penalty. And so my argument is that a responsibility without a penalty is no responsibility at all.
And I mean, this gentleman who posed the question does in fact refer to the fact that it is toothless, which is Edwin's point, which is
what are they going to do?
The statute is toothless, so you have not in fact waived your right because what are they going to do to you? Which I get it. I just I don't know. I guess am I too much of a rule follower?
Perhaps.
Is that my problem?
Now, I will say that in my own personal experience, even though carrying in your car without a license has been legal in Texas since 2007, we have permitless carry for everyone else. I will say that I still have my license to carry. I still present my license to carry whenever I get stopped on a traffic stop, and I have found that every time I do that, I do not get a ticket.
I have not found that.
So I do not believe that is, I do not believe that there is a causation correlation thing there. I'm just saying that I have engaged many police officers because I get stopped. I've engaged many police officers. We then have a discussion about gun law. Sometimes we even talk about guns themselves. But I will have to say that it has been years and years and years since any of those stops have resulted in me receiving a for the reason that I was pulled over initially.
Before I drove a mom wagon, I got pulled over for speeding quite a bit, and it never got me out of tickets.
Because you were driving a red Italian sports car.
So fast.
So
I was driving it so fast. Okay, so, all right, here we are. Last question. And although I think this was posed to Richard and I'm going to address it to Edwin because I think it's a good Edwin question. Do either of you two see yourself as a judge in the future? If you were in Tarrant County, I'd vote for you both. Thank you. This is at Doug Hudgens 9275. For me, hell no. But Edwin Walker once, basically waived his opportunity away
Well,
to be a judge.
yes, it really doesn't make much sense to do that anymore. So,
Well, but
but
you were, I mean, they came to you. Came to you.
yeah, but you still, it's a far cry from, being asked to actually taking the bench. And now, I mean, I'm a resident of Harris County,
Yeah.
whereas
Galveston County Republicans wanted him to run for the bench, and he said, "Nah,
Uh,
dog."
no, I know. I was like, what?
And that was the year all the red judges got swept in,
I
right?
know. I could have been swept in
You would have been
without any
swept in.
scrutiny whatsoever.
We wouldn't be sitting here today.
Wouldn't be sitting here today.
You'd have a cushy bench life
I know.
and county
Sitting in the
retirement.
courthouse looking over the harbor.
You'd make a good judge.
Well, thank you. I appreciate that. So, but, in Tarrant County, I don't know if we should give a shout out, but we are, we're friends with Sheriff Wayborn.
Yes, we are.
Sheriff Wayborn, he's a good man.
Vote for him if you're in Tarrant County. But we hope you enjoyed this discussion. If you did, consider subscribing, hitting that like button, and help us fight the anti-2A algorithm by sharing this video. And leave us a question or a comment below. If you leave your questions here, we will pick them up on a new mailbag episode. And enjoy this blooper, Samir, don't forget. Until next time, we're the Armed Attorneys. If I didn't have my gun, I'd be like, F you. But if I have my gun, I think I have to.
No, I don't think you do.
I think I do.
I don't think you do.
I think I do.
I don't think you do.
It's toothless.
I don't know that I even understand that question.
Why isn't there anyone out there advocating for the files? Am I right?
I'm just saying, let's say that it was something that didn't. I'm just saying, not advocating for the files.
We should bring back the death penalty for
For
yeah.
We've been here so long, Samir had to go get a snack.
Yeah.
That's how much time we've taken in doing this.